Hi, my name is Derek Henry with Accelerate Consulting, and in this video we're going to talk about the cost of doing nothing. If you've ever had a leaky faucet, a toilet, an appliance, or pipe, you know what a pain it can be when it's leaking. It usually starts out small, it's often unnoticed, but usually gets worse over time. You might ignore it for a while, and then it turns into a bigger problem. Personally, we've had countless leaks. Sprinklers are the worst, aren't they? We've also had two major ones. We had a slab leak that resulted in a full master bath remodel. That was fun. And we had a washing machine that malfunctioned and flooded most of the house when we weren't home. Also very fun. As bad as water leaks are, though, there are even costlier ones, the ones that leak time. And if you're like most businesses, there are plenty of leaks out there, whether you know about them or not. If you ignore them, two key things happen. First, they get worse because they tend to have a ripple effect, and not addressing them signals to people that they're not important. Second, it means money, right? And inflation means the cost of leaks is continually rising. In this article, we're going to discuss several ways that you can address these leaks in 3 key steps. Identify them, prioritize them, and fix them. Now, you want to start by identifying the leaks. These aren't drips of water, they're far more expensive. We're talking about the time. It's a natural part of evolution and growing a business. The bigger you are, the more people that you have, the more leaks you probably have. Realize that it's often hundreds or thousands of hours of time, depending on how big your business is. There are 4 key areas to work at. First, irrelevant work, the unnecessary work that doesn't even need to be done. That adds up quickly when people have constant requests. They forget to say, well, that was only a one-time thing. Disengage work where people really don't like it or they don't understand the purpose, leading to distraction, delays, errors, and rework. Third, manual work that could easily be automated, but people are still doing it. Anything that involves paper is a really good example of that. Inefficient work that could easily be streamlined by just thinking about it a little bit, combining the steps, or reorganizing them. And an idle work where time is going by and nothing is happening. People are literally just sitting there because of bottlenecks or whatever their reason, right? Or maybe they're just waiting on something. When water leaks get worse, it wastes water and can ruin the materials. But when time leaks get worse, they waste the monetary value of the time, which is extensive. But they also negatively impact culture. No one wants to see waste happening, right? But at the end of the day, we all suffer from it, and we all collectively eat part of the cost. It's even worse when it continues unaddressed because it spreads, it's demotivating. The good news is the opposite is also true. When you continuously address leaks, it signals that continuous improvement and stewardship and accountability are important. It also helps when you reward them. Now, first step, identify the leaks. Second step is to prioritize the leaks. Now, best way to do this is to track the time that's spent on as many tasks as you have possible, and set realistic benchmarks. Continuously compare the time that's spent against those benchmarks and the benchmarks themselves to identify opportunities that you've got for improvement. Now, I get it. It might seem like overkill. People might not want to track their time like that. I know I've had to do that in the past, especially when I've been in consulting. But there's simply no better way to measure for success. It also really helps with planning and resourcing. The phrase "measure what you treasure" kind of sums this up perfectly. So make a list of all the tasks that are happening and not necessarily meeting expectations. Identify the effort, the resources, the time, people, and money that it takes to improve them. Improvements could consist of process reengineering, automation, training, or some combination of them. Now, it's crucial to help people understand that improvements are for their benefit. It's not a gotcha session. We're just trying to change the outcome, right? Then, once you've done that, you can prioritize the improvements. This is often the toughest step because it's where sometimes unnecessary politics can stifle progress. I wrote a separate article to discuss this best practices. We'll link to that with this video. It's worth a read. At a minimum, consider these 3 criteria when you're prioritizing. How much time is it leaking? The more time it's leaking, the more it should probably be prioritized. How many people are affected by the leak? The more people, the higher the priority. The effort that it takes to fix the leak, the lower the effort to fix it, the higher it should be prioritized. Get those easy ones out of the way. That kind of makes sense. So once you've prioritized, fix them. Now, make a commitment. Okay, a lot of people, they get to this point and then they kind of stop. But you don't need a perfect plan. Just get started. Make it an iterative process. You'll be able to reinvest that for future improvements. Get everybody involved and motivate them, with money, extra time off, maybe a team party. Stuff like that works great. From a financial perspective, people often try zero-based budgeting, where they build the budget from the ground up rather than just look at what happened last year. You can kind of take that same approach, and do the same thing, right? Track how people spend their time and kind of build that up if it maybe hasn't been addressed or hasn't been analyzed in a while. The easiest part is to start with irrelevant work. If it's not crucial, don't do it. I've seen too many times where people are doing something, they don't even know why. It's just because they've always done it that way and they've never really thought about it. So think about it. If it doesn't align your mission, your core values, or compliance requirements, chances are it's not even necessary. Minimize the idle time where people spend and they're not even doing anything. A great approach is replace that with training. Training is one of those things you can almost never do enough of, and often funds are available for it, but rarely is the time budgeted for it. So keep in mind that fact. History says that payback is often well worth it. When fixing leaks, aim for long-term quality, not just a quick and dirty fix. The leak will inevitably come back again, so why not fix it right the first time? It kind of sounds like a grandpa quote, right? Whenever you can, supplement the fix with technology, because technology can often enhance it, right? Free up even more time for valuable activities like analysis, exception management, improvements, or training. You probably don't need a robust, expensive applications. They often cause more leaks themselves. Often there are clever niche solutions that can automate all kinds of stuff. That's why I built the Excelavate Excel add-in, because it's easy and simple and can be really impactful, especially if you have a lot of work in Excel. Now, real quick, just to show you the impact of this, leaks getting worse over time. Okay, let's look at an example here. It shows kind of a baseline where about 10% of the time that people spend is leak. It's not really adding value to the business, right? And that's I'd say that's conservative based on what I've seen. Okay, so that's the yellow line down here is the baseline. Now, two things are going to happen over the next 5 years in this chart here. The leaks get worse a little bit at a time due to apathy and growing complexity. We'll say that's about 2% per year. The other thing is inflation. Let's say that's 2.5%. And I know lately, it's been a lot higher than that. So over the course of 5 years, the leak is almost 24% worse. Wow, that's a lot, right? But again, remember, the opposite can be true. If you continuously make improvements and reinvest that time into more improvements, it's a compounding effect, right? Now, this quote by Ben Feldman really summarizes this well. There's doing something costs something, doing nothing costs something, and often doing nothing costs a lot more. So the takeaway here is to be aware of the leaks, commit to fix them. I know it takes time and money, but it's often not as much as letting it happen, just continue to happen and doing nothing. Right, so kind of to summarize here, time leaks are prevalent. Denying that could be a major mistake. They tend to grow over time and extent volume. Address them by identifying them, prioritizing them, and fixing them, and use that as a catalyst for continuous improvement. Efficiency and accountability are enhanced, and those both make for a strategic advantage. One last kind of thought here. After supporting software sales for the last few years, what I found is it's remarkable how many times people spend so much effort in their evaluation of the software, and then they end up doing absolutely nothing. Even if you make a mistake, at least you've learned something valuable, and that kind of goes along with this. So hopefully you found this helpful. If so, please give us a like, share it with anybody you think might appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.